Okay, y'all, it's time to get shit done, man. This book, Action Takers Who Get Shit Done, is all about providing you tips, tools, techniques, and tricks that can help you move forward in various times in your life. We have one of our authors today, Elizabeth Moores. We're going to be bringing her up to talk to her about her chapter in the book, how she joined the book, and why she joined the book. So, Elizabeth, it's so good to see you here today. How's everything going over there in Florida?
Great, Linda. It's good seeing you. Everything's going well.
I love this book because you are an ultimate action taker. I mean, first of all, you just picked up and moved over to Florida, just kind of like, for me, it felt like it was at a whim. Maybe for you, it didn't feel like it, but for me, it sure felt like it. But, you saw something, you wanted to do it, you picked up and you did it. And a lot of people might not take that kind of move, that kind of action, because you had lived in San Diego for many years. And
Yeah,
what was
I
it?
never thought I was going to ever move from there.
Yeah. And so what was that made you decide, you know what, I'm going to move? And because that's quite a big distance.
Yeah, well, so a couple years ago, I had heart surgery right around Christmas time. And my oldest sister lives here in Florida. And she came out to visit. Actually, she came out to help out my family. And she stayed with me in the hospital during the duration. And I never really got to know her. So after I had the heart surgery, I ended up having a stroke. So by April of 2021, I want to say, God was faithful. He restored me because I couldn't walk, talk, or see through a lot of determination, which is the main point of my book. I decided this is not how I was going to live, that, the stroke wasn't going to define me. My heart surgery wasn't going to define me. And so I helped myself get better. COVID helped me get better because I didn't have to deal with a lot of people and answer a lot of questions. I could get better on my own time, which was, graceful. But so it was at the time I thought prices were great in California. My sister lived here in Florida. I wanted to get to know her. So originally I just wanted to come out here and rent a place and kind of get to know her. And then, but my family wanted to come with me. And so we sold our house and we just up and moved, and here we are. Do I miss California? Yes, my family's there. My parents are there. I really hope that they would move back here, but some circumstances have happened which will not allow them to here. So now I try to go back to California every quarter. That's my plan. My goal is to go back there every 3 to 4 months and visit. So
That's awesome. Now your family, so you're there with you. You have your husband, your son, and your daughter are there with you, and everybody decided to go ahead and move out there. Now, is your son he's in college in Florida?
yeah, so what he did was, so my parents are still back in San Diego, but my son was attending UCSD, and when we moved out here, he was there probably for a couple they do a couple quarters. It really wasn't where he wanted to be, and he wanted to move out here. So yes, so now he's going to school up in Tallahassee. And so that's where he is now. He's home right now for spring break, or for summer break. And then my daughter just graduated in June from high school. And so she's looking at making her career options. And so, yeah, we're all just kind of hanging out. It's been an adjustment. It rains here all the time. And I'm not too sure I like that. Don't know how long I'm actually going to be staying in Florida, to be honest.
Right.
But I'm here for the next at least 3 years because that's when my son transferred here. Everybody knows Florida and California don't particularly get along very well. And so a lot of college units, when you go to school in either state, the other state doesn't want to take them. So he basically kind of had to start from scratch. But it's all good. He's actually really enjoying it. He's up in Tallahassee, which is kind of similar to San Diego, and in the way in hills and except it's green, whereas San Diego is brown. But other than that.
Well, now, I want to talk a little bit about your son, because your son was diagnosed with Aspergers at a young age. And I know that you are a huge advocate for him. We have a lot of people in our community that are, parents with children who do have, Aspergers, autism. And so I would love for you to share just a little bit about the story of how you advocated for him. Because I think a lot of times parents put a lot of stock, I'm treading lightly on what I say, put a lot of stock on our education system, that they're going to take care of them, they're going to babysit, that they're going to do all these different things for our children. But I would love to hear your perspective, because you raised a very successful young man. He's in college now. I mean, how proud were you when he got, accepted to college and he was wanting to go off to college? So share just a little bit about your story of your son.
Sure. So when my son was 3 or 4, we kind of knew that he, in fact, a family friend let us know that he was on the spectrum, that he probably had Aspergers, because she had a nephew that was that way. But I didn't know a lot about it. He was perfectly fine for me. So when he finally entered into school, and when he became 7, he was really kind of out of hand at school. And so we had him tested. I said, oh, I think he might have autism or whatever. So we had him tested. He had Asperger's. One of the final meetings we had with the school administration there in Escondido was their suggestion to me was that I needed to put my son on drugs, prop him up in a corner, and that's what I should expect for him out of the rest of his life. So at 7, I was supposed to drug him out, stick him in a chair, and that was it. Well, first and foremost, if anybody knew my son, even at that age, he was extremely bright. His intellect was off the scales. Yes, he might have had some behavioral challenges. And at that time, I basically told those people, and I made them eat their words, that that was not going to be my son, that my son was going to be successful, that he did have a future, and that they were not going to put my son on drugs. They were not going to prop him up in the corner, and they were not going to just disregard him because he had a special need. And so that's when I started my journey of really learning about Asperger's. I had him brain mapped. That's how I found out what exactly he had for sure. I never got him an official diagnosis or anything. I never applied for any aid or anything else. I was hell bent that I don't believe in a lot of those things. Not that they're necessarily bad, but I got tons of education in different types of therapies. And I mean like intellectual therapies. I have, REBT therapy, NLP, a bunch of stuff. And I created my own program to help my son. And so then I dedicated, at that time I was doing real estate. I got out of real estate and I dedicated myself to ensuring that my son had a future. And I fought the school system and I helped teach them what they needed to do. And for a good period of time, I helped families do the same thing. I'm a big IEP advocate, but I'm also an advocate in the fact that he's my child. And so therefore I can only expect the school to do so much, but I did expect them to do what I asked them to do. And so some people go into IEP meetings and they expect the world from the school, and the school is never going to give you the world. Okay. I don't care what they promise you or whatever. They're never going to do it. I went in there with a couple handful of items that I knew my son needed to work on. And that was what was written in his IEP. The rest of the stuff I did at home. It's tiring and stuff, but the ball stops with me, I guess you can say. And so that's just what I did. And it's worked out for me. I mean, he was, a captain on the basketball team in high school. He made friends. Everybody thought he wasn't ever going to make any friends. He made friends. He graduated, 4.0. He went on to college. He lives on his own. He drives a car. I mean, and he just turned 20. But 13 years ago, I was supposed to prop him up in a corner and give him drugs. And that was their answer. And
Wow.
that was not okay with me, period. And so
That
I went about to make my own way for him and to help other people if I could, to make sure that their child was as successful as that child could be, because success is defined in so many different ways. But
yeah, I love that, because this is exactly what you're talking about. The quiet determination can't be tamed, because you were determined to not let what they had to say be your son's life. And you really stepped in and to make it happen. I mean, look at him now. I mean, he's 20, he's thriving, right? And so it's so amazing that you bucked the system that many years ago, because I think 13 years ago that things were starting to get known. People people were starting to become a little more aware about, Asperger's and autism. But a lot of people, I think, at that time, even still, we're seeing, Asperger's and autism as like Rain Man, the movie, where he just walks around kind of like a robot. And so you yourself, though, you stepped in and said, nope, that's not going to be this way. So I want you to share with us a little bit about your chapter in the book. It's called Quiet Determination Can't Be Tamed. What is that? What is that all about?
So I came up with that title, for one thing, like you mentioned, with the Asperger situation with my son at school, because as I sat in that meeting, listening to these supposed experts tell me how life was going to be for my son and stuff, I just sat there and told myself, I'm going to prove to you that that is not the case. Not necessarily, and in that case, just for my son, but period. If you really develop the time and the skills to actually help these children, they have a lot to offer. We may seem a little odd. We think totally different. You see, and you try to find a needle in a haystack. I see the needle before I even see the haystack. So we just see things differently. And so in that room, as I was seething, I just told myself over and over again, I'm going to prove you wrong. And that's what I set out to do. A few years ago, I had heart surgery and a stroke. After I had my stroke, I couldn't walk, talk, or see. Okay. I did feel sorry for myself, as I mentioned the story, for a little bit. Okay. Because I was a very active, vibrant person. And now I was jello, more or less.
Yeah.
So I felt sorry for myself for a while. And then at a certain point, I, told myself, is this how you want to be the rest of your life? Because I could easily have given up and, been in the wheelchair and had people take care of me and everything else, because that's what was expected of me. That's what everybody, that was just how things were going to be. And in my mind, because it had to be in my mind, because I couldn't verbalize it or anything, I had to tell myself, this is not what I want to do with my life. And I had to build up another quiet determination to, get everything back, be able to do stuff. I mean, my driving privileges got taken away from me. That was a very big motivator for me. I did not want to be dependent on people if I didn't have to be. And so I think all of us have that determination inside of us. It just depends on how you use it. It's something you can cultivate every day. My biggest thing is you need to take small steps. I mean, it's, not just there and, goal setting or whatever, but if you are so focused on getting something done, then that's the thing you really need to focus on. I do have a tendency with my Asperger's. I kind of try to start 50 million things at once or whatever, and then maybe nothing gets done. And I know a lot of people do it and they don't have Asperger's, but it's one thing I do. But once I set my mind to something, it's getting done. It may take 6 months. It may take a year. It may take whatever period of time. It might only just take a week. But we all have that ability within us. We just have to find it. And you have to be positive every day that it's going to get done and not beat yourself up if it doesn't happen that day.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you share that. And I do have some of those tendencies. I think I've even talked to you before that, like, I wonder if I have Asperger's, because I have a lot of the similar signs. I just have never been tested or anything for
Correct.
that.
And I think majority of people have, some of those kind of things. Ideally, and that's why I had my son brain mapped, because a lot of people, try to give, because I'm not a big fan necessarily of labels, but I
Mhm.
am if they're used for you to then teach the person or help the person overcome that particular challenge and find what they were put, because everybody here was put on earth for a purpose, whether you're a nonverbal autistic kid, as they can tell with paintings and drawings and stuff. I mean, all the intellect for a lot of neurodivergent kids are all bottled up inside, and it's figuring out how to unleash that bottle and open it up so that the world can see their brilliance.
Yeah, I totally agree. 100% agree. I love this, and I love what you're doing. You're making these moves. And if you want to connect with Elizabeth, go to Elizabeth at elizabethmoors.com. That's MOORS.com. And we're talking about the book Action Takers Who Get Shit Done. And you can purchase a copy of the book at actiontakerspublishing.com/GSD. While you're over there, there's going to be a bunch of free gifts as well. So go cash in on those free gifts. So Elizabeth, what is one thing that you would like the readers to take away, when reading the book and or reading your chapter?
I think in reading the book, I want people to take away that it's really just like small steps and small action where no one's expecting you to jump off, the tallest mountain or whatever. It might just be a tiny rock in your yard that you first drop off. but every chapter has some really good golden nuggets that everybody can use. And I think that if you read it with that in mind, and reread it, you might get one golden nugget in one area and then something else happens in your life and you reread it and then another one pops out. And I think that's really what the brilliance is. They're small, short, concise chapters that give you a lot of information in a compact space quickly.
Awesome. I thank you so much for being part of this book. Again, get a copy of Action Takers Who Get Shit Done at actiontakerspublishing.com/GSD. And we'll see you at the next interview. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for being here. Truly appreciate you.
Thank you. See you guys later.
See ya.
One of the things that I've personally found from my experience of working with Action Takers Publishing is that I've walked away with more friends than I had before because of the relationship that you build with the authors while working in an anthology. I think it's an amazing project to be able to get published. It's a fantastic way to get published the first time, and I've almost seen people who get hooked on doing anthologies because once that bug is bitten, you feel like you can release more and more and more and more stories. And Linda's got a bunch of titles that I think resonates with a lot of us who live in the real world.